Hello, everyone. Welcome to VR Verdict, episode 70, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I'm PJ.
Wookie.
And we'd like to share VR with you. This is our first live stream episode from the Spatial Ape. What do you call it? Spatial Ape Land? What do you want?
Just Spatial Ape, the one and
Spatial
only.
Ape.
The Spatial
Home
Apes.
to all kinds of great things. You can check out their trade show Thursday nights or Thursday evening afternoons. I'm going to get that right. Thursdays at 1 p.m. PST. And joining us today is Justin from Spatial Ape. How's it going, sir?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me on here. Excited to be finally doing this.
Yeah, it's been talking about it for a while, and just seemed fitting. You guys were the first guests in VR, so
Yeah.
How long have
love
you
it.
guys been setting this up? It seems like it's been a while in the works.
Yeah, well, we did a handful of events in Altspace, maybe going back to like October.
Nice.
So we were like experimenting with a weekly thing there, trying to figure out the format and exactly what people wanted. We started building our app maybe early March, end of February. And then I think we've been up and running for probably about 2 months now, probably eight-ish events, I would say. We do it every Thursday.
Nice. And how many? I know we're slowly building the space out. How many attractions? I don't know what you want to call them. Like guests do you
Yeah.
have on those trade
Yeah.
shows?
We'll call it, I mean, what you see set up like physically, we call them booths. So that's been slowly growing. We started with 5. I think now, including the 2 podcast booths in here, maybe have like 10. In terms of guests, I think today we had 30 concurrents is where we maxed out, which is like just about our record. I think we had 31 last week. But like,
Awesome.
we just launched really. Like I think 2 months ago we started, we had maybe 7, 8 people the first week, and then 11, 15, 20, 25, then back down to 20, and then slowly creeping up to kind of, I think around 30 is sort of like a critical mass a little bit, because the kind of like the feeling of it in here and the flow of things changes once you have enough people to be having different conversations. It becomes less
Yeah.
moderated and more organic, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get to this point? What's your history?
That's a good question. My history. Um, I've always been super interested in businesses and startups, and I was like always the kid like selling lemonade on the corner,
Nice.
and then kind of like working my way up to kind of more complex ventures as I went. I did like ticket scalping, and then I had a ticket scalping website. And then I went to Dartmouth, and at Dartmouth I had a food delivery app called Blast, an app-based food delivery app, something like Uber Eats, back in like 2014. That was like my first real startup. And then graduating college, decided I wanted to basically start a business in XR somehow, and so decided to team up with some friends that I had met in school and a previous job I had worked, to start a consultancy called Spatial Cinematics. And we did that for like the last 4 years or so. And about a year ago, we started to get enough of a team, enough of a financial base to start kind of launching products. And this is one of them.
Nice. Pretty intriguing. Like you said, you had the food app. Like, were you one of the first then? Because that seems a little ahead of some of the
Yeah,
ones you
I
hear
mean,
about today.
I wasn't literally the first. I mean, certainly I already knew about Postmates was around, I think. Postmates and DoorDash, I think, were the 2, and Favor. Yeah, those are the 2 or 3 that were kind of like already venture funded and proved that this was a model and could work. But, all those businesses, were at the scale where they could only really operate in the big cities. So it was like New York, San Francisco, LA, Austin. I think we're like the first 4-ish cities to kind of get it. And so our thought was pretty simple. It was just like, hey, I think people would want this at Dartmouth. Dartmouth and like basically the town of Hanover is just Dartmouth. It's like less than 10,000 people. It's all about, the college. It's in the middle of the woods. So they don't have these kind of cutting edge services, at least at that time. And so that was our idea, was to kind of bring that model to this small, community in New Hampshire.
Nice.
Thinking about starting businesses, I'm always like, I had an idea like way back when I was younger, wanting to not have to go to the gas station to get a snack or
Yep.
order, they didn't deliver pizza. But I can never figure out how to make those things work like financially. So I never really started anything with it. But then also it's sort of like, if I start it, I have to get stuff for other people to grow the business. And the whole thing is I
Yep.
want them to get stuff from me. That doesn't fit with my business goal plan statement.
No, there's a
So I
few
never-
steps in between there.
Yeah. I wanted to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
Give me the burger.
And
Kudos
I
to-
mean, it's, it was a similar thing for us as it was for you. It was just like a clear and obvious need that we ourselves had. There was very limited delivery options. And in a town of that size with those small restaurants, providing a consistent, affordable delivery service on a restaurant by restaurant basis, just not feasible. And so that's where kind of we thought we could add some value is you consolidate it, you build it into one service, and then maybe, these restaurants can offer it. But, it turned out that the scale, even consolidating all of them, a town of 10,000, still very difficult to make that work. The overhead and infrastructure, especially, to execute at a quality that we're accustomed to today from food delivery, very difficult.
It's hard to keep a burger warm, even by
Yeah,
today's
yeah,
standard.
exactly. Yeah, we were like driving around ourselves in my Jeep and having a lot of fun, but never quite hit that inflection point financially where, it got a wind of its own, basically.
Scale this up.
Yes, exactly.
So, was there a shining moment or a moment you can look back on that like made you decide I need to work with XR, or how did you come upon that?
A little bit. I mean, I've always been interested in future tech in general. I had the DK2, and I was always kind of following the early progressive Oculus just as a kind of, spectator technologist. And then in my area of study and school was I did a hybrid major between philosophy and computer science, with basically kind of the common thread of that being artificial intelligence and models of information. And when I looked around upon graduating, I mean, to me, it felt like the most exciting things happening to do with that stuff was augmented and virtual reality. And so for me, that was like the corridor. You got to if you want to do cool stuff with AI, you got to get involved in these new devices, and you got to figure out how to get good with them. And so that's kind of where I started.
So with this, with Spatial Ape, like, I know you guys were mentioning like you have to side load right now, and you kind of want that to have like enthusiast only at the start of it. What are your plans for future growth, and where do you see this taking off to?
Yeah, in terms of like the usage of the app, I think like our general plan right now is we want to get to 100 concurrents. I think like we feel like maybe around 100 people could comfortably be in this space as it's currently designed without, too heavy of modifications. And then we want to start to expand the time slot because we have a lot of people, you guys are later, we have some people who our existing time is even too late already because we have a big group in Western Europe. And so I think we want to get more regional and expand the time slot. And, it would be great eventually to have this going 24/7 and really, be a mecca of kind of business activity in this industry. I can kind of explain to you maybe a little bit the origin of this project, if that's interesting to you.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, sure. So like there's kind of two pieces to it. So like the first is really specific, I think, to the VR industry. So basically like when I graduated college, I had like the general conception that I wanted to be in this space and had some moderate amount of business experience, maybe more than kids my age, but still was very green. And so I didn't really know where to start. Like the best bet that I had was, go to San Francisco, get a cheap room in a co-living space and just try to meet people. And what I ended up doing that was so valuable over the long term was going to all these free meetups. Like the venture capitalists would have them, Unity, Google, these different groups would host these free events. And you could walk in and, grab a free slice of pizza and you could meet all kinds of people. You get all kinds of, professional insight that to me, I would have never gotten otherwise. And so kind of looking back over the last year, it's like, not only do you have COVID, which is like those events are not happening anymore. And also, beyond that, I think San Francisco has lost a little bit of its leadership position and its density of talent. So those events may never come back the same. But then on top of that, you have the broader issue of they were never available to the majority of people to begin with because most people aren't in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
So, that to me was such a formative period for getting into this business. And so we wanted to create a space like that basically for everyone else. For people that were never in San Francisco, people that are just now entering the industry, we wanted really like this hub where people could come together, meet, share knowledge, show off what they're working on, that kind of thing. So that's like the first piece of it. And that's like what we've been really focused on right now. That's why we call ourselves the VR industry's #1 trade show. We're just trying to have like the best, most consistent event for VR professionals, like very niche. And I think that's been going super well. But what's fascinating is we've kind of over time discovered the second piece. And the second piece, which is that like VR companies are actually special for two reasons. On one hand, they're special because what they're producing is very unique and innovative. On the other hand, which may be actually more important, they're also special because of the ways that they operate. So what we're finding is like these companies are, they're distributed by default. We're a good example of this. The Spatial Ape team, we only have, really 3-4 people working on this, but it's very collaborative and community driven. And, between contractors and all that kind of stuff, we have maybe a dozen different people working on this in 4 or 5 different countries. And this is not even a funded project. We've put barely any money into this. So we found that that's kind of typical of these projects, right? Even small, lean teams are working across borders in this new way, right? On top of that, I think like people are what you could call digitally native. So like these, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, these things are now like at the center of the product development process because basically like you want to develop this community at the same time, if not before, as you're actually developing your product so that, all these stakeholders can be involved, not just as users and getting user feedback, but as investors and designers and, critics and all these kinds of things. As I think, you guys probably see a lot of that too. So our thought is like, yeah, there's this really specific need in the VR industry, but there's also like this new way of working that VR companies, I think, are symbolically representative of. And in our opinion, like that's not just over the long term going to be limited to VR companies. Crypto companies already work this way. Esports, there's a lot of this, right? And so our thought is like this method of operation, decentralized and digitally native, is going to grow into adjacent industries more and more until it's the default way of working across the whole economy. And I think in that situation, these people, they don't want to use LinkedIn, right? A 17-year-old hardware hacker that we meet in here, they don't care about LinkedIn. LinkedIn's not cool. It doesn't serve their needs. So really what's needed is like, yeah, right. But at least it was, it had its moment, right? And I think like younger people are more able to see through it. And they're like, that's not interesting to me. But they do need professional tools and they do need ways of managing their business identity and all of this, incredible, digital reputation that they're accruing across all these platforms. And so our thought is, you know what, we'll start right now by servicing this niche of the VR industry, which needs this community. And over time, I think you're going to see more and more groups are going to be well served by something like this.
I think it's definitely a need in the remote post-COVID, more people being remote world.
For sure.
Definitely. Like, I've gone to game school and tried to set up teams and stuff like that, and it's always sort of with people who aren't used to working remotely, like sharing files and data.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're younger than me and you're a dinosaur. Like, get out of here. I need people that can be a little more flexible.
For sure.
And it, like with LinkedIn, I think I must have joined that site when it first launched, and it was already like 3 days in, and had already been hit up at the company I was working for like people just cold calling. Like, this is the new evolution of cold calling. I'm like, block, 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 and then hide my profile. Like, I'm done. Through that. But this definitely has a lot of promise. It's got like a charm to it, and I like the small feel. I'll be probably sad when it gets too big. Then I'll be glad I was here at the start of it, like good old days. But I'm hoping that you guys hit that 100 target soon.
Yeah, I mean, and keep like that, keep representing that perspective to us, because we don't want to leave anyone behind. And I think like part of why we've been successful is because we've been extremely niche and community focused. And I think even compared to you guys see there's money being raised all over the place. There's all kinds of business apps in VR now, but they're going kind of top down. They're going the wrong way about it. I think they're going for the innovation executive at some huge corporation, and hey, can you guys do an event in here? But they're not, paying attention to those small, nuanced, but really meaningful connections on the individual level that I think you got to grow out of. And so that's kind of been our approach: is start small, build from there.
Yeah, that's kind of like with our podcast. Like, we've talked to some bigger developers and stuff, but my favorite is just like the little one-man teams. That's like, I
Yeah,
have $13 in my bank account. I'm making this game out of blood and sweat,
Yeah.
and fear.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and they have more appreciation for what you guys are doing too. You're giving them a platform the way that some bigger people may not.
Yeah,
well, that's I kind of, I don't know if I said it on Twitter or not, but it's like, because Wookie and I have been gamers since we were very little, and
Yep.
to do a podcast like this, like on a normal format, like flat gaming, like Xbox, PlayStation, you can't get anyone's time of day on there. Where VR, the community is so amazing that anyone will reply to anything almost. Like, I've never had a no. I've had a few people not respond, but that's like 2% of all the people we've talked to. So it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really
Let's take
glad
them
to
out.
see a space like this gather those people. So
And a lot of it's just the sort of the genuine nature. It doesn't feel like you said, like top down. Some executive like, hey, do that. Like one, I was working at a government contractor, not doing anything really like virtual reality or game related, but like my boss in IT at the time was like, you have some sort of game degree, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, we're making blast protected vehicles. Like, could you make like an iPad game where you like tap something and like the vehicle goes and like blows up because like landmines and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And show like a Humvee getting decimated because that's what happens, and then show ours that doesn't get decimated. And you could like like level up and you could drive it like just like a trade show thing. And I was like, the split brain. It's like Wookiee could be making money making games. But the wrong kind of games for the wrong kind of
Right.
people. And I think I might have said half of this like out loud, like in front of these people. And I'm like, but then there's me who would like, I'm only going to use my powers for good. If I'm going to make that stuff, it's going to be something I care about. So it's not going to turn into a piece of crap. And then I'm like, no,
Right.
I can't do that. So like, you
Totally.
got to keep that genuine feel. I like apps
Yeah.
that are built with that. Because you can smell it a mile away. It's like, this is, things are cash grabs. Not the way.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about when your community is still small, you can have a point of view. And I think we definitely have a point of view in here. And the other thing I think that helps with that too is like, we've done all kinds of things in our company. We have like a surgical training simulation. We have a platform for virtual shopping, for e-commerce sites. We have different stuff, right? But like this to me was the first time we really embarked on something where I could see myself as being the core user. Because, at the end of the day, like, we didn't know anyone in VR. We wanted to meet people in VR. This is us solving our own need. We didn't know where to go to do that because there wasn't really a place. And so we felt like that's really an ideal setup. It's like if you can keep yourself as being the person you're trying to solve problems for, it's harder to get lost, I think.
Definitely.
that's really cool.
And like, you're right, the smaller crowds, it just breeds more energy for me. It almost feels like, like what's a good metaphor? Like almost like a music scene. Like PJ and I came from a town. I wasn't really in the scene, but there was a big music scene. And if you just like met some of those people, you felt creative energy. And I like that
Totally.
creative energy. It's kind of addictive. Like, you don't have to be in on it. You just talk to some of those people and you're like, wow, I feel like I'm part of it. So
Totally. And I think, we have people come back every week that don't even have projects, although most do have projects, but people come back every week just because I think they feed off that feeling of being around people who are genuinely
Like-minded.
artistically, creatively motivated. And I think, that's contagious.
it's
And
kind of like when
it's
you
a
at the
good
end of a movie, when you feel that like awesome feeling when a really good movie ends and you're
Yes.
getting out of the theater. But like if you get that talking to like-minded people, it's even like a real
Totally.
feeling and artificial.
And that's the thing is like
As-
we thought we were going to build like we thought this was like a software businessy networking thing, and then it turns out like the kernel that's at the center of this for everyone is just wanting to be with people that they identify with. It's actually like very raw and social, and that's ended up being like even more of a powerful motivator than any of the businessy stuff, which has been like a big learning for us, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like you said, there's nowhere else for the like-minded VR people to gather. So giving them a space to do that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And there's cool stuff like what Shane's done with SideQuest, very cool.
Yeah.
We at my company we go to the AWE conference in Santa Clara. That's super cool, but it just hasn't been packaged I think quite right to be broadly accessible and consistent and that kind of thing.
And again, going back to the community, like he built SideQuest. SideQuest is pretty epic. It's done so much good. And he's humble as hell and just he'll talk to you and it's just, there's
Totally.
no ego or anything. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
And I think like he gets busier every single day, but
Yeah.
at the beginning when we were doing stuff in Altspace, he was coming pretty frequently to our events and he was really bringing a lot of energy and a lot of life to what we were doing, which we had a huge appreciation for.
Got two people in the crowd. We got Franklin Richards and Zed. I'm going to mess up your name. I apologize. Poirier?
That's pretty close. Poitier, but yeah.
Almost.
What
I wanted to jump in real quick just because, like,
Sure.
I was on the stream watching you guys talk, and just want to let you know that it's super quiet. I
is
think,
it?
like, the distance to your camera is relative, like the same way
Oh,
you have
sure.
it here. But
Mm.
I'm really excited to hang out for a bit.
We'll
Cool.
just shout. Thanks for pointing.
Hopefully you can
First
just-
time.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And hopefully you can bump some of that for the podcast stream.
It was the same earlier when my battery died during one of the presentations, and I jumped onto the stream, and the camera was so far away, so everything was so quiet.
Yep.
But you probably know that already.
Yeah. The camera's tough because, for our event, we got to have someone man it. So today I said, you know what? Follow everyone, make sure it sounds good for 30 minutes, and then you can just zoom out and then hang out with everyone.
Right.
Gotta get those wide.
Yeah, the stream's interesting because, like, when we first conceived of this, we're like, okay, the stream's going to be a huge part of it because a lot of people can't join us and this and that. What we discovered over time is like there's this quality threshold for that type of content, and it's like you really have to have enough production value and enough thoughtfulness go into that stream to make it really like interesting to watch. And then, like, at some point we kind of like reassessed and realized that like we were like in the middle ground and never like getting above it. And so the stream wasn't that great. And so now we like changed our mindset about the stream. Now for us, the stream is just something to tease you to download the app and come in, which is like a little bit of a different use case than it used to be, but it's been an interesting thing to learn.
Sure. Franklin, you got any questions or comments while we're chatting?
No, I'm actually just really excited for the few. Like, this is my first time in Spatial Ape, and I'm really excited to see
cool.
what's going to come out of this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm really excited for the trade shows now
Yeah.
that I know that they're going to be a thing. I can definitely see myself being a part of that because, like, this is kind of like something that I like. Seeing you guys on stage, the only thing that comes to mind is basically VR E3 in a sense. Do you know what I mean? You guys are up here talking and giving a presentation, and it's phenomenal. Like, I'm really in tune and I really love it. But it's a really cool thing to like look over to PJ and then to Justin and then to Wookie and so on and so forth, like I would in the actual, like at an actual presentation. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. And like I said, like as Wookie said, I can't wait to see you guys hit the 100 user threshold because this is phenomenal.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for saying so.
And Wookie and I are very much idea people. So I know the first couple of times you guys talked to us, like, we could do this and this and then that and this and that. It's like, I'm like, you can tell us to shut up at any time.
No. We're very much the same way in our company. It's taken, all of our willpower and restraint the last 2 or 3 weeks to slow that down just a little bit so we can be, make sure that our stability and consistency is, does not fall off.
Yeah.
The last time I was at a big trade show for a piece of software I'm working with now, I had ended up talking. They had, like companies come up and give their success stories. And I ended up talking to so many of the people, which I'm not really, like, sometimes you can't get me to shut up, but if there's a bunch of smart people talking, I'm the last one. I'm just going to be sitting there trying to soak it in.
Sure.
I had to talk to enough different people that ended up getting together themselves and talking. They wanted me to start doing success stories. Can you say anything now or like maybe next time? I was like, no, a little shy. But like, I can't wait for like, even like, a smidgen of that to come through with this. Like, just, I can imagine, other developers, talking about their games. I would just want to walk through that, and to do that in the VR, like the space they're working in, the medium they're working in. It's like kind of walking right into somebody doing pottery, walking right in their shop and talking to them about it. And that's just
Totally.
the coolest thing when you don't have to get your hands dirty. I don't have to get it in the car. Just put the headset on and I can go check out. The other day there was a dinosaur sitting in here last night.
Yeah.
I want to know like, who put the dinosaur in there? Who's the modeler? It looked pretty good, like that stuff. And I can't wait for this.
No,
too.
100%.
Just-
Yeah,
and
you were.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you were saying like when we have a dev on and they make a game and they can bring their asset into here and we can display it and show it, and even like from character models to like maps and stuff, like I'm just so excited to see that kind of stuff in here, and you can actually like interact with it a little bit and see it. Hopefully we get some reveals going and stuff, but
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
absolutely.
the
And I know you guys are
possibilities are crazy.
super busy, but if you do at some point get a chance to check us out during the normal time, you can observe a little bit the way
These
these
my
creators
problem.
use kind of the tools we're giving them, and maybe give you some ideas as well.
My problem is
I
I
have
got a
a-
day job, so the Thursday mid-afternoon is like not a good
The worst
time. for me.
time.
I totally want to
Yeah.
check it out, but if I'm off on a Thursday, I'm going to write that down. And
Yep,
make
I
sure
have-
doesn't come in.
I have a couple time off events coming up, and this is definitely on my calendar to. I've caught
Awesome.
the tail end of a couple of them, but I definitely want to see the whole thing and check it out.
Yeah, and that's, frankly, that's been like one of the most exciting things for us is like, yeah, our community is really small, but like we'll randomly see people on Twitter or YouTube, having a conversation amongst themselves or on someone else's thread saying that they're going to take a day off to do this. And it's like, that's pretty incredible. Like you're going to take
Yeah,
a day
yeah.
off to go use a piece of software. So like, it's a pretty small community still, but like the little things like that, I think make it feel really special to us in terms of, being something worth working on.
That's impactful to like, somebody with a day job, like a normal person like me. If I'm going to take a day off for a piece of software,
Normal.
it's going to be this. Well, I'm not affluent, I'm not jet setting, just,
Sure.
working average Joe. But like, if I'm going to take a day off for software and it's something like this, that's awesome because mine is reserved for like the new GTA game in the recent
Yeah.
history. Or
Yeah.
history. So you hear people saying like, I'm going to use up some vacation time, some stuff that I could be, doing for me, like taking it. That's like right in the right direction. It only takes a few of those to get you to know how special it is. And maybe I'll just take a late lunch next Thursday and work from home and put on the headset.
That'd be
Some
great.
some good feedback for you. So I've been talking to I talk to a lot of people on Twitter all the time about
Yeah.
coming on the podcast, and it's crazy how many times like I'll be telling this dev or that dev like, hey, this is our plans. We want to get you in there, and they're like, oh, Spatial Ape, yeah, those are great guys. We've worked with them, and you guys kind of mentioned that when you first talked to me about checking this out. We do have quite a cross
Yeah.
pollination
sure.
of guests we've had, and I came in here the first time, and you guys were having Void Rifter on. And I'm like, hey, we're having those guys on the podcast tomorrow, and it was just it's really neat to see all that. But I've heard like VR Trend Magazine I talked to, and they're like, hey, yeah, I think one of those guys worked with you guys or something. He mentioned, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And like I would say like the other really related thing, not necessarily taking time off, is we have people especially in Asia Pacific, like I would say mostly Japan, Australia, for them to come to this, like that's a huge effort. They're literally waking up 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I think, that desire to be, connected to people that are doing what you're doing and understand you, I think more than anything is so strong.
Yeah, we have the same thing with guests from other time zones. Like we've had people get up at like 2 a.m. their time just to
Yeah.
talk to us, and it's like, are you crazy? Like,
It's like,
Yeah,
our standard
it's
thing
totally
is, like,
flattering, but it's like, holy crap.
Right,
Yeah, for
totally.
those people we'll have like an 8 a.m. Saturday show, and it's like fine. PJ's like, well, do you prefer an early one? I'm like, sure. Not knowing that the guest is from, one of them was Russia. I think we had a couple people from China. I'm like,
Wow.
Yeah.
I could have come on at 8 in the night. Like, like I didn't know that was the case.
Totally.
So, yeah, that's pretty inspiring when people are making a good shift. Because, like, if I'm going to bed for the night, it's got to be a tree falling on the house for me to get up.
Right.
I use the rest really bad. But yeah, that's.
I'm gonna mess this up, but Peter from the creator of I'm really bad with the name, so I apologize to everyone.
Skiing game,
Yes, can't think of the name.
Descent Alps.
Descent Alps. He's joined us twice within the last year. Talk about his game. He's one of them. He got up at like 3 a.m. and talked to us for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm like, dude, just go to bed. Like,
Yeah,
but that's
He's
how
in Japan.
passionate everyone is.
He's
They're
in
just
Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're just
That's super
excited,
cool.
and he's like, we've had many devs like, you are the first people I've talked to in months. It's like, holy crap.
Light.
That's right. On the 15th, we are doing at 2:30 Pacific a community managers meetup hosted by VR Trend.
Nice.
So on the 15th, that may be late enough that some of that trickles, overlaps, and kind of has a little bit of cross pollination with this show, which would be cool.
Yeah. I'll try to keep an eye on the schedule closer to make sure I don't miss out on stuff. Because PJ and I were talking about community manager stuff before, and like, I've tried Discord. We've both tried Discord and, forums in the age. It's like, I can't keep a community together to save my life. I always bleed out. How do people keep people like me interested? Because I'm not interested, and somehow I keep coming back to stuff.
Right.
I would just like to be a fly on the wall. What do they do to make sure they don't alienate their listeners?
Yeah,
So they
and I
use
think
them. So
that's
that's
we
cool
found
stuff.
that's like the strongest organic pull for content from our devs is wanting to talk to people who have expertise in marketing and community. That seems so like that's something we're really trying to work on is like how do we consistently, reliably like bring those two groups together because they really want to meet and they don't have a lot of ways to do that.
And yeah, marketing is just a hard thing because like I've tinkered with game design and I'm tinkering like writing a book and I'm listening to podcasts
Oh, cool.
about talking to marketers on where to like sell a book or publish a book, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with any of that. Which is why they make agents. Like I guess that's why I'm listening to this podcast too.
Yeah, I mean it's not super natural for like both of those talents to be in the same brain, and that just poses a dilemma. It's pretty consistently.
The last marketing guy I talked to was the place I work, and they'll put their logo on just about anything, Tumblr mugs and things like that. But I think I was frustrated one day, and I was like, there's some of the marketing guys that's walking in. He's always doing like trade shows and events for their stuff. And I was like, can you get me like a couple inflatable hammers? Do they make those? You guys, because they have marketing stuff, the swag. And he's like, yeah, why? And I was like, I just need to hit a couple people. It was just having a frustrating. I didn't expect it. The next day, maybe next week, something like that. Like within days, there's a box of 100 inflatable hammers. Did I send it to you? I think I did too.
Yep.
It's just blow them up. So we were just throwing like Hammer Bro, like from Mario. Just throwing cue balls.
I had the inflatable.
That's great.
I had the inflatable plasma sword from I think it was the Halo 3 release because I was a nerd and I was in line at midnight and like Best Buy and I got that. I was running around with that and one of your hammers chasing the wife around.
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
On that note, though, one of like the most rewarding pieces of this and just most beneficial to us as a group has been like as much as our users don't have marketing skills and want expertise, they've really have taught us how to market this way. I mean, like a year ago, we didn't have any Twitter presence. We didn't do anything in public. We had like a few of these kind of big consulting deals, but they were like with kind of, legacy dinosaur companies. And so like this whole, process of live streaming all the time, being on Twitter, building a community, being in constant engagement, like with these people we're working with, like we've totally learned that from our users, really from like kind of some of the earliest people that came into our space and kind of taught us how they were doing it. So that's been super cool, like basically to learn how to do that in the process of building this app.
And streaming's fun. It's got a definite draw. I remember sometimes we stream just playing like random Xbox games. I'll be streaming just to capture the funny moments. And I got like stream bombed or whatever by some guy that had,
Oh, really?
15 people in my stream. And my stream is usually like me on my phone making sure I don't miss chat.
Right.
And then like maybe PJ. I just don't care. So I didn't even know there's 15 people. So I would look over after they've all left and there's like 30 messages and all these people. You need to pay attention to your chat and all this stuff. I'm like, hey, he sounds like a nice guy. So I go to his stream on the one day like Twitch has a problem and they can't tell he's got new members and no chats. I'm sitting there like, hey, dude, thanks for, whatever. No, like he couldn't tell anybody was chatting at him. I'm like,
Right. We had an experience, I mean, with that today, really, because, like I said, streaming has taken a little bit of a backseat for us in terms of we just keep the production quality real low. We use it as a little bit of a teaser, as a hook to get you in the app. But today, so we, this kid Lucas Debonet, who has Lucid VR, I think is what he calls his group. He basically is making like open source haptic gloves. Brilliant kid. He's going to MIT in the fall, and he's just been, awesome to collaborate with. But he has a really robust digital following, TikTok, YouTube, that kind of stuff. And so today he basically blasts it out saying, hey, we're going to talk about with some hardware folks. I can show you guys later, but we opened up the back ring as like now kind of like the Lucas hardware zone. And I'll show you. It's the hardware hostel, actually. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he gave us some exposure today. And so normally we don't have that many people on Twitch. And I look on Twitch today, we have like 38 concurrent streamers or concurrent viewers. And it's the funniest thing ever. They're all, 16, 17 years old. And we don't even know what the stuff they're saying in the chat is. We're literally Googling the slang that these kids are so young that we've never heard it before. And so all of a sudden we have all these people watching. We don't know what they're saying. We're like talking on Slack. Does anyone know what like UWU means? It's like, oh, look that one up. Like, oh man, it was such a trip today.
Face, like, Arr.
Yeah. It was great though. It was great. Because we do really want, I think, provide a lot of value to those younger people that are just starting out on their careers. I think that's going to be an important piece of what we're doing, but it's amusing sometimes.
That's I love hearing that because putting kids on the right track early is amazing when you can do it. And we've had the REM5 studio guys on, and they do a lot of XR stuff. And visiting their studio in 2 weeks. That was one of the reasons I'm going to catch your guys' show because I'll be off that Thursday.
Oh, cool.
And he's like, oh, I have to apologize. He's like, when you're coming up, we didn't realize we backed day camps back to back. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like we have indoor camping for kids and we just let them play with all our stuff in our whole studio. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. He's like, I hope you can handle like frantic screaming kids. I'm like, I'll fit right in because we're talking about, he's like, we have so much room. We were talking about the AR Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we got a couple carts and like, I'll bring mine up and we'll race. Great. And he's like, we have a huge thing to do it in. I'm like, so like, yeah, I'm just another big kid anyway. But I really like that companies or groups are keeping that in mind because like we've had some educators on the podcast trying to get VR in the classroom. And I'm like, that would have changed my life if there was VR in my classroom when I was that age because school was so freaking boring to me. Like,
totally.
But now, like, if I could see it in VR, like, I would learn everything. So,
and for us, that comes back to like DNA too, because like I felt like, especially at that age, 17, 18, where it was like very clear that this was what I enjoyed doing, like, developing these kinds of ventures and innovating, that kind of stuff. Like, I always felt like I never got taken seriously, which was really frustrating. Because, like, especially, in those days, internet transformation still happening, like, almost by matter of just being a digitally savvy kid, like you have something to contribute, let alone if you're really building like a serious business. And so I think the internet in general, I think has helped with that, like with, younger people having more access to opportunities. But I think that can go even further. I think in VR, there's no reason that, if you're 15 or 16 and you really are an elite level engineer, like you should be getting treated as such, and you should be coming and having adult conversations with people that know what they're doing. That's hopefully one of the things we're providing here.
There's a lot. I mean, I was me as a kid growing up, like in the 90s, having people that had cool skill sets or cool jobs that you could talk to was
Non-existent.
Just, you know, for a
Totally.
kid to walk in and have like a developer, you know, showing off a map or an asset they made in 3D, that can make all the difference in the world. So there's, you know, another me, young Wookiee sitting there like not paying attention to school at all.
Yeah.
And the only recognition I would get from like French teachers and art teachers, because I was just being weird, like, you know, they used to make us little kids, you know, pay attention. When you get your book on the first, this is high school. This isn't like middle school. They make you take like a paper bag and make a book cover for your freaking school book. And so there's young Wookiee drawing like, you know, Lord of the Rings and like Norse runes and stuff like that,
Right.
riddles and stuff. So I only got attention for that stuff. I'm like, I want to meet artists. I don't want to talk to you
Yeah.
people. And the younger you get like excited about it, is, you know, I'm sure people are right when it's easier to learn languages when you're younger. You can just pick up on stuff. If we didn't have the exposure like breaking PCs and fixing them, we wouldn't know as much as we do now. That's what I automate stuff for a living for my day job now, and it's just like, sometimes I can do it in my sleep, sometimes it's harder, but it all comes from
Sure.
being excited about something early. And
Totally.
you're right, the early we get kids into this stuff, because I'd rather see
And-
them, you know, interviewing with a developer rather than just watching, you know, Rocket League. Quit.
Yeah, you know, and they're not everyone's at that maturity level, but that's the thing. Not all 16-year-olds are, oh, we might, oh,
He just shoot through the floor. You guys see that? Is that still here? I can still hear. I can't see your name anymore. I just see your pill hand.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
here, I promise.
I can hear you.
Your head's gone though.
One man show now. I wish I had some sort of commercial.
Yeah.
Sort of.
My head back now.
No, and it's behind me. No.
One of your hands is over there.
Oh, yeah. I put down the controller. It's just. It's so weird for me to like feel like we're in the same space right now, but
It
then
is cool.
Right?
envision that you have like a desk beside you somewhere, and like our like physical spaces sort of overlap in the virtual space.
That's a weird thought. We're running the show now since you guys fell literally.
yeah, sorry about that. You just
you-
experienced
I got, like, a desk
our most famous recurring glitch, the floor
I'm
falling.
glad I have a Iron VR stomach.
Yeah. No kidding. We've been working like 5 weeks figuring that one out, and we just finally figured out what's causing it, but it's going to take like a week to fix at least.
Nice.
It's been the
Too much
bane of our
Java buffet.
existence, but we're getting it. Yeah, right. Just too heavy.
Gotta be prepared for a potential drop tower. That's all it is.
Yeah. As one of our users says, do not take your altitude for granted.
What a way to put it. One thing I did notice when PJ and he first gave me a tour, I was talking to you guys, and you guys had to go, and PJ and I hung out. We did like a race around the train
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
But it ends somewhere over there, and I think I fell and did that. Like I found my way through something or locked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need some sort of. We talked about this too. I need some sort of like doing the podcast from a moving train car, or I hate to say like a roller coaster, because that will make me barf, I'm sure, in any VR game. But,
Train car would be great though. We want to get that train moving real bad. That's
What if
you know, there's your main course and with your vegetables, and then your dessert. That
Yeah.
train car moving, that's the dessert.
Got to
Something like-
Mr. Rogers it up.
Yeah.
Have all the guests come in on the train into the app.
Right.
I just think the train car thing would be cool, like from this perspective, if you put the train on the stage and then had some like background pieces just moving beyond, but the
Yeah,
train is
yeah.
stationary and you guys are just hanging out.
Yeah.
you could
Cool.
That'd be fun.
Or
totally
put like a
tell it's
video
like
behind it.
like a 1910 like projector thing moving in the background.
Mhm.
It's a little janky on purpose.
Like you know, like in the 60s when Disney got like really sophisticated and they'd have like 4 or 5 different planes moving at different speeds. Yeah.
I know exactly.
Yeah, like that.
That always excited me as a kid. Oh, it's like perspective.
Yes, totally.
I have to go. This was cool.
Oh, hey, man. Thanks for
Cool. Yeah, thanks for coming.
joining us. Shoot us
Said
a
Poitier,
message on
buddy.
Twitter or something so I can get you a game key or something.
Yeah, okay. We'll play.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Bye. And,
See you around,
he's-
Ted.
Nice to meet
Wookie's
you,
gone now
man.
too. Yeah. Bye, everyone. This is an awesome app. Super
Everybody.
cool.
Yeah, the thing with the floor falling, essentially, like we figured out the only way we think we can fix it is to update our Unity version, which is like a whole can of worms. So
Yeah.
we're kind of working our way through that. It's like, I said like one of our testaments is like, okay, like you guys said, similar, like people wake up early, right? It's like, oh, that's something. Or people going to take a day off. Another thing, ironically for us, like one of our strongest like demand and success signals has been like, if you come in here for an event, at least the last 6-8 weeks, you're going to have at least one crash like that every single time. And people like, they don't care. They just come back. And so it's like, what I don't know any other VR app that people use that's like fully crashing, quitting 2 to 3 times every session, and people are just like not bothered by it. And of course, like we're working as hard as we can to fix that stuff. But that was one of the things where we're like, okay, like our community here has really bought into what we're doing.
Yeah.
You should make like a badge that recognizes when that happens and it goes on their profile. Because once you fix the bug, it's never going to happen again. It's like, we're OG. We were here when it was hard to log in or something like that. Like World of Warcraft first month, like nobody could get in, and I got my girlfriend that last copy in Wisconsin that was for sale.
Yeah, I mean this in the most non-offensive, abstract way possible, but like a Purple Heart for Spatial Ape.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like yeah,
Call
like
it the crash test dummy group.
Crash test dummy group. I like it.
Yeah, I didn't barf. I just dropped right through.
Well, we got a little time left. Is there anything else you want to like share or explain about this that you want listeners to hear? And
well, one cool thing is like part of our plan for the next 6 months is to start making investments into companies in our space, specifically companies that come in here and share their work. So that's just like another piece of how we understand that our target market is limited. We're really right now satisfied to have a really high engagement in a small niche. And part of that, like really tying ourselves deeper into that community and making sure we provide as much value per user, even in this small basis, I think is to start making early stage investments in here, which we're really excited about.
that's awesome. Just giving back a little bit.
Giving back, building up the people that come in, getting a stronger community because of it. It's a really good plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. I like for anyone listening, like our plan, like we mentioned earlier, we have guests from other time zones, so we will be doing this from here on some Saturdays, and those weeks I plan to be in here that Thursday night anyway, even if there's not a show, and trying to catch the tail end of your guys' event. And as you said, as that gap closes, we'll try to do like on the spot interviews and catch people and say, hey, come on over and talk for a while and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, that would be like so great. Like if that's what I would really hope. I mean, and I want to collaborate with you guys just across the board to see like how crazy we can do this. Can we get big stage lighting? Can we get you a soundboard? Can we get all kinds of tied into other apps and platforms? Like we'll figure some of that stuff out. But even just getting some kind of organic cross-pollination with other things we're doing in here. And, I think it goes back to like what I said earlier, which is like, we're trying to bridge the gap between the people who, have the platform and have the audience and are making the content. And, you said you're not good at marketing, but compared to most developers, like you guys are really good at marketing and know what you're doing, at least in terms of having reach, connecting you with like the really talented people. I think there's all kinds of really talented developers in our space that would love to just come pop in here for 2 minutes and share what they're doing and see how you guys are and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to, we've talked about these things, but a guest book for people to sign, like Franklin here, and say, hey, I was the first one in your booth.
Yeah,
and
that'd be
like
awesome.
I'm kind of thinking like a toy box or like a shelf where like people that bring assets, if we can get their permission to keep it in here and just have it as like something people can pull it out and look at while we're talking. And or if people visit when we're not here, they can dig through our toy box and look at all the cool stuff we've done.
Yeah.
So
no, that's a great idea. Did I show you guys this t-shirt cannon?
Yeah, I saw that last time.
Yeah.
Just warped out of nowhere.
Buckle up, Franklin.
Whoa.
Yeah, we do this every event. This is like, I think this is like kind of our one cliche we do every event that we just like have a lot of fun with. And that's, at the beginning of every event, we shoot out a t-shirt, and if you catch it, you get one shipped to your door in real life.
Awesome.
But since we already have this code written, I think maybe it'd be fun to repurpose this to maybe distribute game keys for you guys. We
That
could
would
like
be
give this to you
amazing.
somehow. I'm
Yeah.
gonna think about.
Play like an Easter egg hunt, like shoot the thing, and wherever the can launches,
Yeah.
somebody's got to go find it.
Yeah.
It's pretty. Speaking of game keys, I have a stash of them that you just kind of acquire, and every once in a while on Twitter, I'll say, "Hey, reply to this or do something," and I'll give you a game key, and it works pretty well. But you would think free games would go like hotcakes, but this would be an awesome place to help get some of those out there and get some games out in the world. Like
Yeah, and
Franklin's
if,
gonna Franklin's gonna
also,
go home
like-
with a key today, so
It sounds like you guys have like some ability to like produce assets, or at least have like some fans or friends that like can create assets. Like it'd be not that difficult for us to just swap this out with something that looks different, like, and keep the same functionality. If you guys wanted to have this be like a VR verdict kind of game key launcher of some kind of that, like, I bet that'd be like some pretty sexy marketing on Twitter and stuff if we could
Yeah.
get that working.
A catapult. A model
Yeah, catapult. There you go.
we got a little time left, Franklin. Any questions or comments?
What you got?
No, this has just been fun. Like seriously, like looking at everything. Like as I said to BJ, I was here before and I was like taking a look at everything. I'm really excited to come back like when the whole trade show is going on and just get a full experience of what's gonna happen here. Because this alone was really cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just really neat. And so to see what the full show is gonna be like is gonna be completely. That's just gonna be awesome. And I'm really excited.
Yeah, for sure. And Thursdays 1 Pacific is like our normal time. If for whoever can make that. And like it's been really cool just the last hour for me, because like in here, especially if we've grown more, like my role is so focused on moderation and making sure things flow correctly, and I'm always second guessing, like, how do I sound and can people hear me and does this make sense and all this kind of stuff. And then in here, like, this has felt like such an organic conversation between the four of us. Like,
Yeah.
this has been such a pleasant experience that it's really refreshing. And I think you guys are going to do really well with this, just based on kind of how it felt for me
Yeah.
to be in here getting interviewed by you guys.
I think it'll make it a little more interactive and a little what's the word I'm looking for? Well, anyway, like, because right now I tease some of our guests that I tease them a lot because I'll say, hey, you want to be on the podcast? They'll say, sure. Here, we'll shoot you a link here at such a time. And they just come in blind. Like, that's all I tell them a lot of the time.
Yeah, right,
They
right.
don't know what to expect. And I'm like, you guys are brave as hell. But, they don't know what to expect. And it'll be a little more, like you said, organic, because we don't like video chat. We video chatted with a few people like Tommy Palm and stuff once or twice. But, you're just kind of sitting there looking at a screen, like you said, making sure everything sounds good. And you're mostly focusing on the conversation, but you're also kind of like, I hope this is working out. So
Sure.
I think this will help make it more organic, make it a better conversation. We'll have assets to interact with, all that stuff. So I'm really thankful you guys reached out to us, and I think
Yeah.
it'll be good for both of us, but I'm really excited.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Like this. Yeah. I mean, we could go so far with this. Like, I mean, you guys both know, right? Like, there's so much we could do in here. And like, Frank, I don't know if it was you or Zed that earlier said, use E3 as the analogy. And it's like, yeah, E3 is a good analogy, but it's also just the starting point, because it's like, we're just doing this the way that we've seen it done 100 times in person. I think as we get further into this, we're going to realize that the rabbit hole goes so much deeper when everything's kind of virtual and digital. And I'm excited to see what we come up with together.
Yeah.
Doing Eddie Vedder stage dives in no time.
Right. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Exactly.
But another
Exactly.
thing, like I said, Wookie and I are brothers, obviously, for anyone who didn't know that. We've been gaming all our lives, but he's been down south for, 20 years or so?
2005, so
So
yeah.
we visit each other here and there, but again, on our podcast, it's like we just talk and stuff. But now, like, I can kind of see him, and it's very organic. That the power of VR, like just
Totally.
hand movements and natural conversation. So It's just
It goes
great.
a long way.
It really does.
I like how like again, bad with names, but the booth next to us, really great gal. What's
Max Noir, Lunch Hour.
yeah? So she'll be coming doing her show before the event, right? And then it'll be
Yeah,
the event.
yeah. I think she's going to be like 30 minutes before, maybe.
Awesome.
And then you guys will be kind of like the bookend on the other end, and we're just trying to like basically fill in the middle. It's kind of the plan here.
Awesome. All kinds of potential.
All kinds. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
much for having us here.
Yeah. For sure.
We're still it's funny because this month will be a transition month for us because I already had it like most of it booked.
Sure.
So we're gonna be doing double duty. We're gonna be doing audio episodes, and then we're gonna try. I have someone lined up every Thursday for this month and next month almost.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
We'll be really grinding our gears,
Amazing.
getting it done. But it's still weird, like because normally we have the format, and it's like, okay, we're gonna be in a live space. How do we start the show? How do we end the show? And then hang out with people and stuff. So it'll be interesting to come up with all that.
For sure. I think you guys have mentioned props before, and I think that's a good way. Like, for instance, when this comes out in our event, everyone knows what it's time for, right? Like that's like it's like a scene transition, right? Because like there's people have associations with these different objects, and I think you could have all different things like that in your space that are just little bits that you do that you could kind of compile over time, which I think would be really fun.
Yeah, I've been taking notes, making ideas happen.
Awesome.
But yeah, thanks again, man. This is great. I can't wait to do it every week and see how everything grows around us and with us, and where you guys take everything.
100%.
And you weren't in here last week, but I said it'd be cool if we got a podium and we could bang a gavel when we did our closer. Like,
I love that. Yeah.
I remember some of our very first episodes, it's like the VR verdict when we're trying to come up with a name. It's like, well, we're probably going to, I'm pretty judgmental and we're probably going to be hopefully not tearing games apart, but like we got a verdict. So like, I think I scared the crap out of PJ and like my girlfriend, everybody in the house, like, just bang on my coffee table right in front of my couch here where I record from. I'm like, that's our verdict.
It sounded like he broke a pane of glass.
Well, it's like one of those telescoping coffee tables that you pull up, so there's a bunch of springs and mechanisms to wait. So all of that shit just resonates when you hit it. I gotta stop that, but it's funny.
That's funny.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I got to figure out how to end this now.
Cool.
Same.
Well,
we
thanks
normally,
so
like,
much. Yeah.
We have like the dev conversation, then we just do the opening and closing on our own and kind of discuss it and talk about it. But
Yeah, well, why don't you do that and I'll hop out?
could you just leave? No, I'm just
I absolutely can.
I'm just kidding. I just have a lever to pull and the guest disappears.
Catapult.
Yeah, catapult again. Getting a lot of use out of it. All right. Well, I'll let you guys wrap up. It's so good to talk to you guys. I feel like I already know you a lot better after this hour, which I think bodes really well for the show. Excited to see what we do together. And just excited. So you guys have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Thanks again.
Take it easy. See you, Franklin.
Yeah.
Well, that was Justin from Spatial Ape, the proud makers of everything you see here. I'll do a camera tour real quick when we wrap up here for anyone watching. But it's new stuff like crowd interaction and questions. Frank, thanks for coming. We've played Demio with Frank. I played some Battle Chess with Frank, or Chess Club VR, sorry. So
Was that
a good guy?
Demio? Did I don't know.
Yeah,
Was
you were
I
there. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you were
Sweet.
there for that session.
They start to run together.
I get that. I get that. Don't you worry.
Yeah, and I'm not throwing shade or anything, but like I do all the Twitter stuff and everything. So I talk to a lot of people, and Wookiee sees probably like 20% of what goes on. So
I'm lucky enough to so far just show up. I don't know where PJ got all these people to come in. Like, I thought half the time when we played Demio, it's just random people joining the room. It's like, oh, this is a Twitter friend. I should not offend them. Because I don't know. Be on your best behavior.
Yeah. But just to close out, guys, we're going to do this every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central. Sometimes Saturdays in the morning. We'll probably pick a set time so it doesn't get as confusing.
It also
But,
depends on the developers from where they're at.
Yeah.
I'd rather they get some sleep and,
Yeah.
much needed rest than just have
But-
an 8 a.m. or 8 p.m.
I can't speak for Wookie, but I plan on being here every Thursday, even if there isn't a show, to figure out what something to do, hang out before and after. We'll be giving away keys and stuff for her first couple episodes, and this thing's gonna organically grow and change over time.
Do it.
But for episode 70, I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
That's Franklin.
That's Franklin.
This was our VR verdict. All right, I'm gonna do a flyby of the camera, and then we can check stuff out or talk, whatever works.
It's just dangling. So, sorry, if your username on Oculus was Franklin Richard, sorry if I don't remember which. Was there a
No.
spectacular
Mine
name
was
to it?
highly ablaze. It was highly ablaze.
Played so much Demio. I'm terrible with names anyway.
But
hope
we
we
only
had
played the one. We only played the one game.
Hey, we played the Rat King the other night, and I was expecting the same user-friendly romp, and it was like we started at like 8:30 our time, and it was like midnight. It's, you got to take it so slow because you can't see anything with the shadows. I'm like, Jesus.
I know.
It's-
No, we got a lot of complaints on the first campaign, so we just decided to, or at least I should say the Demio team. I'm just a moderator, but you know what I mean. They really
Yeah.
decided to ramp up the difficulty there.
I totally get it, but it's also like I was expecting
Like
2
so-
hours stops, but
Turn
it
on
was
my
a
fan.
4.5
I
hour
hear you. I
romp.
hear you.
But it's like, we all the new surprises, which I probably still recording perform about, but all the new surprises with like the Rat King like healing and throwing rat bombs and all that stuff. We made it past. It wasn't really like that bad. It was just like the entire new strategy. It's almost like the rooms were bigger and they took twice as long because of that shadow. So it was like I wish I needed like a short
Yeah.
adventure button, like just one room maybe. It is good.
Yeah, I don't know if we saw the bunk beds and shit the other day, Wookie, but they added like bar stools and shit. I think it'd be cool to get some like stools and tables in here.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take out the
Yeah, that'd
spatial.
be really cool. It'd make this a lot more like feasible. You know what I mean? Because like I'm sitting on my couch right now, so if I was like sitting on a stool, it'd feel like I was actually like sitting there. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna take out the positional audio for the booth so we can
Yeah, that's-
record and
Yeah, that'll make it a lot easier. And then I don't know. There's so many possibilities just to set stuff up.
Yeah.
If they do have props, like the gun has interactive, you shoot stuff. But if they have like movable props, we've already got ideas for that. The guest
yeah, we're
board
gonna
is
have
cool.
to befriend some modelers because I commissioned the one thing. Franklin, this is a secret, but we commissioned the one thing and it's
Oh yes.
like $200. I'm like, holy shit.
And that's where I feel bad because again, to these things, I just get to show up. PJ does a lot of the setup, and I just try to, add something to the show or something, another perspective. I could do this
Right.
modeling, I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, you help the conversation because I'm not super talkative, so
I do
that's why
try
when I
to
tell
do that,
people
but
we
then
do a
it's also like-
podcast, it's like, what the fuck?
I mean, if I get to the point with any of my modeling projects where I'm like, hey, look, here's an asset I made if we don't have everybody on that week. Modeling is not cheap. I always want to pay the artist a fair share, but it's like, oof, $200 for like every prop.
Yeah, he said that was the friend price. He said 4, and he's like, I can get it to you for 2. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
But I wasn't gonna pay the 4.
It's not to short. Things are just expensive, and then we get day jobs. We're just normal people. But it's like, oof,
Mhm.
oof.
Yeah.
Artists deserve
No,
their money.
100%.
Yep.
I think he's actually breaking a cardinal rule.
Alrighty,
It's like, you
guys.
don't-
I am going to jump off just because I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache here. So I've pretty much spent all day in VR, so I
Hey.
gotta take a little break here. It's
From
It's a
that,
loser.
that list of games I shared, let me know which key you want and I'll get it to you on Twitter. Just message me.
oh, okay, yeah, no, I'll take a look at the list again and then I'll shoot you a message there.
Awesome. But yeah, we'll play some Demu or chess or something soon.
Of course, guys. Of
Yeah.
course. No, this is awesome. Thank you again for tweeting about it because I would have completely forgot by accident. I was like, oh no, because we had the whole conversation last night. I was like, oh god, I'm gonna look like such an ass if I don't show up. But no, I'm super happy I did. This was really cool, guys. So I'll have to like start bookmarking this is like my thing to do Thursday nights. So
Awesome.
Be cool. Yeah.
Alrighty,
I want to
guys,
gather
have a good
some
one, eh?
support for these guys. We can.
Yeah. Any
Oh,
comments or
sorry.
anything, just let us know.
Oh, it was just phenomenal. Like it was really good, guys. Like it was a really good pace between you guys. It felt like as Justin was saying, it felt like a really genuine conversation. You know what I mean? Like very fluid, like very just back and forth. It wasn't like, so you thought of this because of this. Tell us why. And then it
Yeah.
was like, him going into that. But no, it was really organic, and I loved it. So I'm excited to see what you guys do with like other developers and like games that maybe like I have an interest in, like down the line that I've seen like preview stuff for that you guys have on the show and stuff like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
really excited for.
And if there's someone we haven't talked to or someone you'd like us to talk to, shoot me a message and I'll try to make it work.
Yeah, if I get any connections, like I'm very active on a social media platform called Clubhouse. And there's a thing called the Game Industry Cocktail Hour. And so
Nice.
I'll be so what I'll do is like I'll be sure to like keep an eye out for developers there, and if anybody catches my eye, I'll be like, hey, so I know these guys that do this podcast, and if you're really interested, they do it in VR. So
Tell me more. I can't get any closer, but
yeah, that was
Personal
already
space.
a little close.
He's been in VR all day.
Alrighty, guys.
see you, man. Thanks.
See you, man.
All right, guys, have a great one.